Welcome to chapter 2, where we will be going through all of these things. So you will learn more about envelopes, about LFOs, about functions, about randomizers, about mod wheel, about the mod wheel that we can apply to things. But I first of all want to start with this one here, because this mode button here gives us mono, legato, poly, and all of this stuff. And when we will be talking about LFOs, for instance, later, and we will be talking about reset sources, it's better that you understand what mono, legato, poly, and all of this stuff is, so you understand what all of these settings do and why we pick them. So let's actually start right away. So I've picked a patch from my sound set. It sounds like this. It's a beautiful pad, and you see it's set on poly 8. And what this means is, or let me actually start with mono, so I show you what mono does. So if I play a key and then play another key, so what you notice, each time I play a new note, the note that I was playing before is getting replaced. So if I hold down this, and no matter where it is, if I play another note, it instantly gets killed. Because on mono, the whole synthesizer has only one voice, which means you can only play one note at a time. And we will talk later in this lesson here about why you would pick mono or poly 2 over poly 12 or something like this. But just hang in for now. So the difference is then, if you look at poly 2, as you might think by yourself now, poly 2 means we have polyphonic, which means more than one voice. So mono actually stands for monophonic and poly stands for polyphonic. And 2 means that we can play 2 notes at a time. So I can play a first note and a second note. But as soon as I play another note and another note, it will always start to replace the first note, the oldest note. So if I play this one, this A that you see it bound down there, and this A 1 octave above, and I play another note, the first one is getting erased. So you can't see it now because I was holding down the note, but the synthesizer did kill these voices, so they disappear at this point. So this basically means the higher you go with poly, the more notes you can play at a time. If I play 8 notes, it means I'm safe as long as I play 8 notes or less. So I can do something like this. But you need to be aware, because as you see, these envelopes are still running. They're all running, and it's part of the sound of the pad, how it sounds. So if I play 8 notes and I play the 9th note, the first one is getting killed, and maybe the first one is still in the process of this, because if I play quick, like this, these were, if I am not wrong, 9 notes, so the first one was probably not finished and got killed. In this case, it doesn't matter, because we have enough voices going on, 8 at the same time always, and they have a lot of reverb and they have a lot of a tail, so you don't hear it. You don't notice that the first one is getting erased. So in this case, poly 8 is no problem, but just be aware that when you go for something like poly 4, which makes it more audible when you play, as you see, they were getting erased. It's still not as strong as on 2 or mono, but you still hear it, right? So just keep that in mind when you make these decisions, and we will, like I told you, talk in a second about when to use what. And then we have legato, which is something special. And legato is special because if I hold down a note and then I play another note while I'm still holding the first note, the next note will not re-trigger anything. It will not re-trigger or envelopes or LFOs or filters. It will just have the exact values that our first note is currently causing, which sounds like this. So I play, and now I add notes. So the first note started this whole process of these envelopes and of filter and everything. And when I play another note, it just takes the value that is currently given. So this is legato. This is a special way to play things. So you may now ask yourself when to use what. So usually, I mean, in the hardware world, a lot of synthesizers in the lower budget range only have monophonic, just one voice. Some of them have 2 or 3 or 4, but often not more. And more expensive synthesizers go up here. So in a digital world, you could argue that it's not important. Like, we have no limitations here. Why not set it to 32? Well, it could be that you have a sound that is so huge that it's not made to play chords. So with this pad I can play chords. But maybe another pad that I've created is so strong, so powerful, so brutal, that's only made for single solo performances, so that you want only to play one note at a time, and you don't want to play more than one note at a time. So this way you can even remind yourself, or if you give patches away to others, to tell them that this patch is not made to play several notes. Or maybe their tails are adding up and you don't like how it sounds or something like this. So this is a way where you could go for mono. Or you could go mono with bass, because like, you don't want the bass to overlap when you play quick notes, right? You want them to erase each other, and maybe you have a bass where it sounds good, where it doesn't matter. So it's just a little fine-tuning. It's not really necessary, because you could create a bass in a way that you can even play it with poly 8 and the tails will never come into each other's way. But you get the idea. This is when you could set something to mono. And the same applies to things like 4, 5, 6 and so on and so forth. So maybe sometimes you have a patch that is so strong that you can play a few notes, but maybe not more than 4, because if I would play here now something like this. Oops, now it did reset because it was on poly 8. Let me bring this up. It's still not bad. It actually sounds good, but only sounds good if you hear it alone now. But if this would happen in a whole composition, it would consume the mix. It will overshade all of your other instruments. However, then it's still not really super helpful if you bring this to poly 4, because then you play and you're just disappointed when the voices disappear, right? When you do something like this. But this effect of cutting voices is not always bad. I mean, listen to this. Except the first low note that disappeared, which was not good. But if you play it in the whole same range, like I did here, up here, just, then you can still play it a little bit more free without worrying about too much of the tail getting into each other's way. However, personally, I always put it up to at least 8 or 12 or as high as possible, because I don't like these limitations, and I just spend attention in my composition to not overload instruments with too much notes if they can't grant that. And I design sounds in a way that they won't come in a way even if I play 12. Like you just hear it on this patch, you notice I can play this with really a lot of notes and it still sounds good because I've designed it this way. So this is just so you know how this works, but I think there are really rare moments where you want to go mono or limit yourself to fewer voices. I just want to give you some ideas where it maybe could be a good decision, but generally you can go with a high number and you don't need to worry about anything. It should work. It should just work out. And then we have glide, which sometimes also has the name portamento in other synthesizers. And glide is something that just introduce a little glide from one note to another. So if I bring this to I will bring it first up to a higher value so you can really hear it. So if I play a low note and then a high note, so what it does, it just sets some time that a note pitch needs to travel from your first note to your next note. So from here to here. It's a pretty cool effect. It's not really good for quick melodic lines because, as you notice, it takes too long. At least at this setting. I mean, you could bring it down to something like this and then it doesn't really prevent you from playing quicker sequences. Can't even really hear this here. I will show it you on another patch. But before I do, what you maybe noticed, if you play close notes, even on this huge setting of 2.8, it will sound good. It was better with this low note together and then... So the glide time between two notes is still 2.7 seconds, but it's not such a huge distance, so it's not that extreme. But yeah, let's take a patch where you can see the slower glide. I think this one is good for it. So if I bring this up to something like this, maybe a little bit less, so you hear it. So this is basically glide with a lower setting. You can even go lower, like make it more subtle. Or even fewer, because it's still some extreme. Just want to show you that you can even work with low values. And without it sounds like this. But if you go high with a short instrument, like with short notes, when you play melodic lines like this happens. So this won't work out because you will never hold a note for 2.7 seconds and you won't even hear the correct pitch because you don't have the time to let the notes glide. So even this is problematic with an instrument that you play like this. And even if you release a key, the synthesizer remembers your last note. So I just played a high note. If I play a low note now, it will glide to the position. So as you see, for instruments like this, you want low values. So that's actually everything about this. There's the other thing that we can do is we can change the mode that the voice steal mode works. Like voice stealing is like I told you, you hold down like a note and you play another note, and it's voice stealing what happens when the first note is getting replaced by the second. And here you can just switch the mode. Actually, I don't know the difference between reassign and rotate. But I think you could just play around and figure it easily out. You could just pick the other one and this one, play the same 3 or 4 notes with a low poly 2 amount, and then just see what happens, and you will easily find out what it does. So it's not super important because usually the most synths just have reassign at all by default. Usually you can't change modes. Hold is probably that I play notes and then click this button and the synthesizer holds it for me. This is cool when you use sequences like we will be talking about sequences later, but imagine you have something like this and I click hold and it plays this for me. So I don't need to, no matter what key I hit now, it will hold that for me. So this is just the hold button. Like, it's really not super necessary in today's times because we have a sequencer and can just put notes in and loop them here and something else. This is something that was taken from hardware synthesizers, but maybe you like to work more on your synthesizer, or I don't know, maybe do some stuff that should not be re-triggered by new notes, and you just want to hold one note. Then it makes sense, of course. So it's not completely useless or not just a gimmick. You can really use this when you have use for it. And this button, it says when set to always, all notes will glide, otherwise only notes played legato will glide. And you remember, legato means that you play a new note while still holding down another one. So if I hold down this one and play this, should actually introduce glide time. So now it will glide and glide down. But what will not happen anymore if you deactivate always is that the next note is always following the pitch. You remember I told you if I play this note and if I now play a high note, it will go there. But if you turn this off, it won't do this anymore. Now it will only glide if you play legato, and you remember from just that legato was a playing mode where you hold down a note while you play the next one. This was bad playing, but you just get the idea, right? So this is everything about these modes, everything that you need to know. And we will see us then in the next lesson, where we will be talking about envelopes and how we can incorporate them more and some practical examples. See you there.